Well, joining us now to talk more on this is Brendan Caldwell, the director of Caldwell Securities Limited. Brendan, always great having you on Forum Daily. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Nima.
So let's start with this. How might all of the geopolitical events going on, like Afghanistan, as we mentioned, affect the markets?
Regrettably, I think they'll affect them very little. If we're just talking about Afghanistan, I think if the President of the United States and the Western world deeply and profoundly still cared about Afghanistan, we wouldn't have left them to the tender mercies of the Taliban. My regiment, the Queen's Own Rifles of Canada, was deeply involved in securing that country's well-being for a decade with over 70 of our members there. And it's just heartbreaking to see them just left. But the Western world, the markets as a whole, they don't really care. So it might be an election issue in some way, but I think as cynically as this might sound, Nima, the world is just going to roll on without them.
All right, Brendan. Well, we are in the middle of a federal election right now. What are you hoping is going to be discussed during this election as it relates to Canada's economic recovery from the pandemic?
Well, I think there's two different models that the government could go with, and I think the choices are making themselves evident. One is a model that will see the government revenues improved by raising taxes. That I think will end up being a futile attempt because if without economic growth, and the usual engines for economic growth in Canada are being blocked, particularly the energy sector may not have the longest future ahead of it. So if we don't get economic growth in other areas, I think we'll have an issue. So there's two ways of approaching it. Either you raise taxes to raise government revenue, or you encourage growth. I'm really hoping that we land on the latter, because I think that's going to be better, not just for all Canadians, but particularly for younger Canadians that really haven't benefited from the growth of the last 30 or 40 years.
Now, I want to go back to what Tiff Macklem, the Bank of Canada governor, is saying. He's arguing that keeping inflation temporarily high would help the economy rebound from the pandemic-induced recession. So can you tell us a little bit more on what he means by that?
Well, inflation, which was the boogeyman from my youth, when inflation was in the double digits, is still better than deflation. When you expect something to be worth more tomorrow than it is today, you're going to buy it today. So to a point, it does stimulate economic activity because people buy things. If you think something's going to be worth less tomorrow than it is today, you're going to hold off buying it till tomorrow. And that feeds on itself and you get a recession, or in worst case, a depression. So yes, a bit of inflation is better than no inflation, and is certainly better than deflation.
But meanwhile, we have economists saying that inflation could spike higher than what Mr. Macklem is saying. How would that impact the economy, Brendan?
I think the tricky bit will be higher interest rates. The whole world is now budgeted for very low interest rates. From governments all the way down to someone buying their first home, we're expecting low single-digit interest rates. If we see inflation go higher, then the price of money, interest rates, will likely go higher with that. So if we have 3 and 4% inflation, we'll see 5 and 6% interest rates. And I don't think the world has budgeted for that. So that, more than Afghanistan or anything else, will likely have an effect on the markets, because at the end of the day, interest rates really are the determining factor.
All right, Brendan, just about half a minute left here, but the Conservatives are suggesting a GST-free December, considering businesses might not be equipped for this as HST is already in their systems. How do you feel this would work?
Well, I like where his head is at, in as much as, away from what I said earlier, the choice between more taxes and greater growth, at least he's going for the idea of greater growth, stimulating the economy, getting people out doing things. I am not a computer programmer. I imagine it's more difficult than just pushing a button saying don't charge HST in December. But with all the things that we've managed to handle the last year and a half, I think we could probably handle not paying HST for a month somehow.